Here are my requirements. This is not what I asked.
Let's start our presentation with the common problems in conventional software development. This is the problem what we tried to show you from the video, that is business changes. Nowadays we encounter with problem domains whose requirements are changing over time. Most of the customers may not have a firm idea of what the system should do. In many software environments, dynamically changing requirements is the only constant. New business laws, market changes, business priorities changes would cause these changes of requirements. So if you don't have a procedure to adapt with these changes, no wonder your project will be rejected by your customer. Our next problem is schedule slips. Project team should be able to deliver the needed software when it is needed. Most projects are late, over budget, buggy and miss the mark. Word 1.0 and Netscape 6 are examples of such projects. Another problem is business misunderstood. Without direct communication, developers have to guess what the customer wants. The final software product may not fulfill customer needs. Defect rate. Defect rate is known as number of bugs or faults caught in a system. A single defect may result in a wide range of system failure. As shown in the graph here, cost to fix a defect is increasing with the lifetime of software development process. So if the defect rate is high, software quality is low. Another problem is project cancel. Project cancel occurs mainly due to poor project planning and poor project management. Sometimes occur due to conflicts among stakeholders. No cooperation among stakeholders lead to poor quality product. As an example of cancelled project is in 2005, $170 million FBI virtual case file project is abandoned due to poor project planning. As shown here in this report, only 32% of projects succeeded in 2009 and 24% of projects cancelled in 2009 and 64% of features rarely or ever used. Another problem is system goes sour. What is meant by this is software is put into production successfully, but after a couple of years, the cost of making changes or the defect rate rises so much that the system must be replaced and the customer looks for another alternative. So these kinds of problems we should avoid, and we need a better software development methodology to produce better quality software.
So you can see there are various problems or challenges in conventional programming, and that makes it ineffective. So what kind of a method would answer all these problems? Clearly we need a method that makes it easier to adapt for the frequent and immediate changes in user requirements. It would be ideal if the client is actively participating in the system development process, providing feedback from the client side. In 1996, an American software engineer named Kent Beck came up with a solution. He tried out a new method in a payroll system development project. Rather than developing software for all possible changes in upcoming future, this method helped to provide software exactly according to the changes in client requirements, and that method is extreme programming, and that will be our topic today. The name extreme programming was given to this method because it took the good practices like iterative method and customer involvement to an extreme level. Now I'll introduce extreme programming in brief. Extreme programming comes under agile methods. It uses an approach of having multiple short cycles of developing subparts of the software rather than having one lengthy cycle or a few long cycles, and that makes it cost effective when dealing with changes. Extreme programming describes 4 basic activities that are performed within the software development process. They are coding, testing, listing and designing. And then extreme programming defines 4 values in the beginning named communication, simplicity, feedback and courage, and later on one value was added, and that's called respect. In addition to that, extreme programming defines many principles and practices.
Now let's look at some practices of extreme programming. Incremental planning. In extreme programming, the customer's requirements are not specified in lists. Rather, with the help of the customer, the development team develops story cards which describes the customer's requirements. Once these story cards are developed, the developers break the stories into development tasks. Then, according to the customer's priority, a task is selected to be developed. Small releases. Once a task is chosen, then the development team develop and release a system with a minimum functionality. The versions of the system are developed by adding functionality to the first release. The new versions of the system are delivered to the customer roughly every 2 weeks. Pair programming. In extreme programming, the developers work in pairs. It is a very successful way of finding high percentage of system errors before testing, because every line of the code is checked by at least 2 people. Also, programmers can have fun while coding. Simple design. The design of the system should be simple and should pass all the tests. Also, there should be minimum number of classes, methods and no code duplication. On-site customer. A representative of the end user of the system should be available full-time for the use of the XP team. In extreme programming, the customer is the member of the development team and he is responsible for bringing the customer's requirements correctly for the use of the XP team.
Test-first development. An automated test framework is used to write tests for a new functionality before implementing it. When the complete suite passes 100%, the feature is accepted. Tests comes in two different forms. First one is unit test. It's about automated testing of functionality as developers write it. Typically, it tests only a single class or a small cluster of classes. For that, unit testing frameworks such as JUnit is used. Second one is acceptance test or functional test. This is specified by the customer to test the overall system's functionality. Refactoring. Refactoring is an existing body of code altering the internal structure without changing the external behavior. That includes removal of code duplication, simplifying the code to better understand the system, make the changes as soon as new improvements are discovered, and it guarantees reliability, flexibility and simplicity. 40-hour work. It is known as sustainable pace since it focuses on the medium to longer term effects to the quality and productivity of the project. Developers should work no more than 40 hours per week. In this practice, overtime work is not accepted. If needed, only up to 1 week's overtime is allowed. Collective ownership. In extreme programming, no single person owns a module. Any developer can work on any part of the code based at any time. All the developers are responsible for the entire program that is being developed, and no islands of expertise would develop within the group, which avoids segregation. Continuous integration. This says that every time a task is complete, it should be built and included to the system, preferably several times a day or at least once a day. Testing should take place before and after such integrations, and 100% success is expected.
The advantages and disadvantages of extreme programming.
Advantage for developer. SP allows developer to focus on coding and avoid needless paperwork and meeting, because in this method customer also available in the development team. Provide a more social atmosphere to learn new skill. In extreme programming, developer work in a pair. Actually, they sit together at the same workstation, and that pair are create dynamic. Therefore, every member of the development team work with every other members of the team during the development process. Pair create few lines of code and enjoy their work more. For the customer, SP create working software faster, and that software tend to have few defects because each line in the code looked at by at least 2 people of the development team. Allow customer to change his mind whenever he need, with minimal cost and almost no complaint from the developers. It produces reliable estimates so customer can coordinate their schedule easier. For management, XP deliver working software for less money. Software is more likely to do what the end user actually wants. It's got tricks in couples way. It allows to pull the plug on development at almost any time and still have highly valuable code and probably even a valuable working application. It reduces management dependency on individual developer and at the same time can improve employer satisfaction and retention. Disadvantage: extreme programming is hard to practice. It's difficult to get many developers to accept the practices, and it takes a lot of discipline to keep doing them all. Customer may not like the idea of having to be so involved. Management may have trouble to process that itself, adapt to the changing need of business. SPT are reluctant to agree to fixed scope term because they realize that change will happen and it's better to deliver what the customer wants at the end of the project than what the customer thought they want before the project began.
That concludes our presentation. We are CRIDDsoft. Thank you.